Good morning. Welcome to the Art of It All. My name is Jerry Hogan, and we are here just outside of Placerville, California on this beautiful fall morning, not very far from a place that played a very significant role in California history. We're probably not more than a half an hour drive from Coloma, where gold was discovered in 1849. But we're in search of another kind of treasure this morning, and we'll be telling you that story on The Art of It All. Welcome. One of the things you'll notice as we move from scene to scene this morning, as we transition into the story that we're about to tell of the Placerville Arts Association's studio tour, is that the environment that we're walking through, these beautiful gardens, are actually a work of art themselves. Valerie tells me that she and her husband have spent 30 years creating this environment.
Well, I have to say, though, that if my husband wasn't as great as he is, this would not be happening.
No, and kudos to him, because it's taken 30 years to create this beautiful environment, as we said, and it certainly is a work of art itself.
Oh, thank you. Well, we really enjoy it, but
yeah, it's beautiful.
But we're getting kind of old.
Well, I think we're all doing that a little bit. Tell us a little bit about what we're going to see.
Well, I try and have a little bit of everything. So I have a sculptress who does wire sculpture, but she also does raku pottery. I have a photographer, Shelley Thoreen, and two jewelers, Annette Shackner and Ron Montanelli, who both work in silver but different techniques. Mm-hmm. And three watercolor, pastel, oil artists, mm-hmm. Loretta North, Annie Gladwell, and myself.
Just so our viewers know, that was one of the reasons that Valerie's beautiful gardens were selected, was because there were so many artists of different types of disciplines that were here this morning. Now, do the artists that come to the garden come by invitation, or is there how do you pick them?
I like I say, I tried to have a variety, and we've been doing this for years. This same group has worked together on this for about 8 years at least.
How long have you been involved in the studio tour?
Well, since the inception, and actually before that, I believe it was 98.
And so we are at least more than 10 years later.
Uh-huh.
And how many people turn out for an event like this?
Well, a lot of times we get between 100 and 300.
Oh my goodness. And for
it depends
year,
on if it's 2 weekends or one. We've done both.
I see.
And
this year, how many days is the tour this year?
It's 4 days, 2 weekends.
2 weekends, and
yes.
I guess there's a lot of artists that are involved. How many artists in the county are participating?
87 or 89, I believe.
Wow.
And 27 studios. So we've grown from, the first one was 30 people, 30 artists.
Oh my goodness. Now, I saw a really beautiful calendar that you guys created. I guess that was the Art Association.
Mm-hmm. Diane Sewell is the one she's the chairman of the studio tour.
Diane Sewell.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that calendar.
Well, she told about it in the Mountain Democrat. She was in Arizona and went on a tour, and they had them. Oh. So Diane is a real go-getter, and she went and found out exactly how they did it. The studio tour is pretty self-sustaining.
Do you have to pay a fee to be in the, tour?
Yes. I think it was $110 this year.
$110
for members and $125 for non-members.
Okay, so some of that
around
money
there. I'm terrible at remembering.
That's fine, but some of that money obviously must be used to fund the production of a calendar. How many? Right. Do you know how many issues of that were produced?
I believe 5,000.
Okay, so tell me, what is your name?
Kathy Levinson.
And Kathy Levinson. Where does Kathy live?
I live in Rescue.
In Rescue, California. So
yes.
You're real close here.
Yes, I am.
And you're out enjoying the what?
The Studio Art Tour, the El Dorado County Studio Tour.
The Studio Tour. Now, do you do this regularly?
You know, we try to get a group of friends together each year to go on the tour, and we have a good time. We pile in the minivan, and out we go.
And rumor has it we have another artist here. Are you an artist?
Yes,
That's
I am.
what I hear.
Yes.
And what is your medium?
Pastels.
Pastel art. Now, are you a working professional?
Well, for me, I have a daytime job that pays the bills.
Yes. You have a daytime job so you don't starve, probably.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, this is one of the things that we're doing on The Art of All, is meeting some of the wonderful people that live here in El Dorado County. Oh. Thank you very much for having a little say on our show this morning.
Well, thank you, and I'm glad we have the studio
So
tour,
how many
'cause
of
it's
the,
a wonderful.
how many of the different studios will you go to, do you think?
Well, it depends on how much time we have. We try to get in 7 or so.
Well, thanks so much.
Oh, sure.
Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Have a great day.
You too.
Well, here we are continuing our tour, and we're with
Myra Cooper Holmes.
Myra Cooper Holmes. And Myra's got a very unique art style we want to talk about this morning. Tell us about those sculptures out there.
Those are called shadow sculptures. They're made with a steel wire mesh, woven mesh, and I take a screen, a big sheet, and start sculpting. Of course, I've already designed it and drawn it out on paper.
So
and
there's a process you have to go through to create a design. You don't
Yes.
just work off the cuff. There's a lot of planning here.
There's a lot of planning, but on the other hand, there is some off the cuff, because even after I sketch it out on the 2D and then I change it into 3D, there's a lot of things that won't be the same. They change lengths because it's going from 2D to 3D. And so there is a lot that I have to do, adjustments that I make as I'm working on the piece.
Now, I want to tell you moms and dads out there that when we show the pieces of sculpture that we're talking about, the sculptors left their clothes at home. So if you've got little children in the room, you might want to preview this first.
There are a couple with clothing too.
And there are a couple with clothing. Now, some of them have color on them. Tell us about the color.
The color is powder coating. That's the last of the end of the process. The powder coating is a process of baking the paint onto the steel. It serves several purposes. One is to keep it from rusting. It will stop it from rusting. Also, the color adds to the design and to the final product.
Now, if one of your customers put this in their garden, how would it stand up in the weather?
Oh, it would be fine.
It would be
fine.
Okay.
Once it's powder coated, it won't rust, and it is very solid.
I see.
The other thing the powder coating does is it creates a weld between each one of the cross hairs of the wire.
Now, if I understand correctly, powder coating is a process of adding pigment to something and then baking it on.
Yes, that's correct.
That's how it's done. And where did you learn how to do this kind of sculpture?
I first saw this sculpture in Sedona, Arizona in the early 80s. I actually wasn't very impressed with it, the type of display and the colors that were used, and the piece itself wasn't, exciting to me. But my brother, who is also a sculptor, learned about it later and brought me a piece of the screen, and he was excited and said, give it a try, because it does, create some really interesting shadows. So I did, and the next time he saw me, I had it completed, and he was right. The shadows that are created are almost, and maybe even more exciting than the sculpture itself.
It is a very unique medium, something that I have never seen until very recently. How do you, she's got the hair on these things, how do you create the hair?
I leave a large piece of the screen at the top where the head is, and I don't work on that until the very end. And what I do is unweave the woven cloth steel.
Okay, so you untangle it.
I untangle it.
But not first. You do that before you get it powder coated.
Oh, before I get it powder coated,
I
yes,
see, okay.
because I wouldn't be able to unweave it after it's powder coated.
Now, there's another little piece over there. It looks like a little pregnant woman. Tell us about that one.
Well, actually, my husband encouraged me to do a pregnant woman. The pregnant woman is one of the most beautiful. Any pregnant woman is beautiful.
New life.
Yes,
Yes,
new
new
life. And the title of that one is Love's Reward.
All right, wonderful. All right. Now, there's another piece over there that struck me, and if I'm not mistaken, probably it was done and cast in bronze. Is that correct?
Yes.
And tell us all about that.
That is a piece that my mother encouraged me to make. She wanted me to do a Native American Indian. She had in mind a chief or a warrior, but I just couldn't get into that. And I was thinking the whole time I was creating it, of one of my ancestors because I had heard the stories from my mother about her grandmother, who was part Native American,
okay.
loved her people, and was a very happy person. She was always singing and smiling and
Yeah,
helping
she's-
people. And so I wanted to show that Native American people are happy people. They're just like
Just like
us.
anybody else,
Yes.
aren't they? Yes, they are. Now, in addition to your sculpting, tell us briefly about your pottery work, because you're also a pottery person.
Yes, I do raku-fired pottery and pit-fired pottery.
And pip-fire pottery. How do you get the colors on those? They're beautiful. Some of them are almost iridescent.
The glazes, the raku pottery was a method of firing and glazing developed by the Japanese in about the 16th century.
Oh, my.
I make most of my glazes from scratch. I do buy a few commercial glazes. The process is I throw all my pottery, or most of it, on the wheel, and then it's fired to make the clay hard, and then glaze it. And once it's glazed, it goes into the kiln, and when it's red hot, I take it out wearing, long gloves, and I use long tongs
Face shield
and a
too?
face
Face shield,
shield.
yeah.
Take it out of the kiln when they are literally red hot. Put it into a container of combustible material, anything that burns, paper straw, leaves, and those immediately catch on fire. Between the smoke and the flames, it brings out more of the colors and the glazes, creates swirling patterns and flashes of color.
So that's how you get some of those wonderful effects. It
Yes.
sort of happens spontaneously as
Yes.
a part of the firing process.
It's a very exciting thing to do because you can control the colors somewhat, but it's always a surprise.
It's like working with watercolor. Sometimes it's a surprise what you end up with. Now, would you like to share with our viewers where they can see your works of art at, besides here on the studio tour?
Well, right now, this is it. I do have a email that I can be contacted at mc_sculptor@sbcglobal.net, and then as soon as I have my work available in galleries, I will let you know
All right, so
where
our
it's going to
viewers,
be.
you've got that website. You will be able to, it's an email address.
It's an email address.
Email address. You'll be able to contact Myra if you want to see more of her work. Thanks so much for taking time out of your busy morning here to talk to us.
Thank you.
Well, here we are, continuing our interviews this morning. I'm with Shelley Thureen. Good morning, Shelley.
Good morning.
Now, you're one of the photographers that's here, right?
That's correct.
And rumor has it that some of your work is on KVIE at the auction.
Yes, apparently the auction is over.
Well, there's one of your photographs over here that I was particularly interested in. It's the one of the sunflower. Tell us about that.
I had gone to Nancy Siegler's sunflower garden earlier this summer. She was opening her garden to the public to just show her flowers and raise money for breast cancer research. And 300 sunflowers in her garden.
300.
300. So it was a lovely afternoon. And
well, how did you manage to get the dark background in that photograph?
actually, there are pine trees in the background, and so that provided the dark part of the shot. And then, it's up to the photographer and how you meter the scene.
There's a little creature flying around in it. Tell us how that happened.
Oh, sure. I was actually taking about a dozen photos of that sunflower just to make sure I got it right, and he just flew into the scene.
She told me earlier that it was luck, but I think, artists make their own luck. Isn't that right?
Sure. As a photographer, you just have to be ready and, paying attention. That was, like I said, a happy accident.
A happy accident. It really added a beautiful element to the photograph, didn't it?
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. There's another thing about Shelley's work you'll notice when we do some close-ups of them is that you're not only subject focused on your work, you also tell a story with your images, I noticed.
Sure.
Yeah. What about the pear one? Tell us a little about that.
That was kind of based on my 3 children and my niece and nephew. And each one of the pairs has a little individuality about it, and I tend to anthropomorphize things, and it seems like in this life things are animated to me.
Anthropomorphized. My goodness sakes, I'm gonna have to look that one.
It means giving human qualities to the inanimate objects.
Oh, that's very interesting. I learned a new word today. Say it again.
Anthropomorphize.
Wonderful. Now, there's another one over there that is very unusual, but it also tells a story, the egg photograph. What's that about?
Well, that's just simply about stages of life where a person becomes a couple becomes a family, and then eventually the children leave home. And it's it's a sorrowful time, but a happy time for the couple as well. So
Yeah. Now, you told me in a conversation that you were studying journalism at one time. How does that background in journalism affect your photography?
Well, I studied journalism for the first 2 years in college and found out later on I was too shy to actually be a reporter, which I wanted to be, and I changed my major to art, but I still have the desire to tell a story, whether it's with a single photo or a series of photos. One of the things that happens with me is I'll make a triptych, which is 3 images to tell a story. And so, they say a picture is worth a thousand words. So
It certainly is. Now, you're here at Valerie Bye's home.
Yes.
Now, if your audience would like to see your work when this tour is over with, where will they find you at?
Well, I show work at the Gold Country Artist Gallery downtown Placerville,
Okay.
and I occasionally show at EDAC Art Space, that's El Dorado Arts Council.
And they're also on Main Street.
Also on Main Street, and there are several websites where you can see my work through the Camera Club, ElDoradoCameraClub.com. And I also have a blog. It's sacredheartphotography.blogspot.
Very important information. Now, if there's a viewer out there that sees your work and they want to get a hold of you, say they'd like to have you take some pictures for them, what's the best way to reach you?
Well, you could just Google me because I'm on the internet all over the place. My phone number's out there. My email address is out there. So you just type in Shelley Thurine and you'll find me.
This is all new language to some of us. Google me. Can you imagine? Yeah. Shelley, it was really nice talking to you. I appreciate so much for you being here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm here with Ron Runtinelli. And Ron, you're a jeweler.
That's the rumor.
That's the rumor. Now, where do you show this stuff when you're not on the tour?
This stuff, well, I show this stuff in a gallery in Davis called the Artery. And also I will be showing it after the studio tour, probably in El Dorado Arts Council's new building, and they have a gallery called Art Space.
On Main Street in Placerville.
Street in Placerville, right.
Now, this stuff is actually jewelry, isn't it?
It is.
Are you casting this stuff?
No, very few pieces that I have here are cast. Everything is pretty much hand fabricated, made out of sheet and wire, silver and gold. And what I do is I will form a piece, hammer it, solder it, do a lot of soldering and welding, and then shaping it, and I spend a lot of time polishing.
Are you, among your customers, do you ever have any men buying into your stuff, or is this mostly women accessories?
Mainly women, but I do have some men's pieces.
All right, how long have you been doing this kind of, mostly silver, right?
Yes, mostly silver, but I've been in the jewelry, all aspects of the jewelry trade, business, art, whatever you want to say, for over 30 years. At one time, I had a little workshop in Tahoe, and I was a diamond setter for a store in Tahoe, and I've done repair work and custom work, but I enjoy doing what I'm doing now better than anything else I've ever done. It's less stressful than working on a 7-carat diamond.
And you're in charge of your own time probably doing this. Now, I noticed that some of the pieces that you have here have got some beautiful stone. Tell us about the stone, how it's made, and where you get it from.
Well, the stone, the rock that I use is called ocean jasper. And the only place in the world that this particular rock is found is off the northern coast of Madagascar. The people that have the mining rights to it can only get to this deposit at low tide, and then they gather it, break it up. It's in big boulders along the coast, and then they put it in a boat, and then when the tide comes in, the boat sails to a port, and then it's brought to this country, and I buy it from the mining company. They're out of Wisconsin.
So you don't have to go to Madagascar and wait out in the ocean.
I would love to, but haven't been able to get there yet.
So how did you find the company that gets this, that
Actually, I discovered this rock through a mining journal about 5 years ago, and I started working with it, and it's been really well received. And I buy it rough and do all my own cutting and polishing.
What kind of tools does it require to work a stone like
It's
that?
lapidary. It's called lapidary work, and I have silicon carbide grinding wheels and sanding belts.
So you could shape it into just about any shape you want it in. Now the little facets that you have around them that hold them in place, are those handmade also?
They are hand cut, but I didn't do them. They were done, they're commercial little accent stone.
So there's settings that you can get and once the stone is created, you put it in it?
Yes, I do. Some of the settings I make, the tiny little ones are the bezels that I will get commercially made, but pretty much everything else is all handmade.
Now, during the rest of the year, if our viewers wanted to contact you, where could they reach you at if they wanted to see your work?
Through El Dorado Arts Council. Okay. They would have a way, or through Davis. Like I said, at the Artery in Davis. I'm there year round, and they would be able, if someone was interested in contacting me, they could turn down.
And how long have you been coming to Valerie's?
About 5 years. Yeah, I had a 2-year sabbatical, but I'm back now, and it's really an enjoyable place. We're all kind of like family. We've been here together for a number of years.
And do they have cocktail hour later in the day?
We do.
I'm looking forward to that. Okay. Ron, it's really nice to talk
thank
to
you very much. It
Sure,
was my pleasure.
Take 3. Thanks,
Okay, thank you.
I'm standing here with Larry Hartram.
Right.
Larry, tell us what we've got here.
Wood turnings that I make out of a number of different varieties of wood. Most of the wood is found here locally. We have some maple, we have black oak, we have black walnut, and some ponderosa pine, and my biggest seller is California buckeye pieces. This is a very nice California buckeye burl piece that I got out of a burl.
Now, California buckeye is a tree, I'm presuming.
It's a tree, yes. It's probably one of the most ugliest trees that we see this time of year.
Why is it so ugly?
Well, when the leaves turn brown, they're not a pretty brown. They just look like the whole tree is dying.
Now, where do you go to harvest this many varieties of wood?
Well, just all here in El Dorado County. It's like the buckeye I usually get over around Fiddletown. The oak, some of the oak and the pine I get off my own property.
Yeah, you mentioned to me that you've got enough on your property. In fact, you said one of these burrows up here came off of a tree. Tell our viewers about that tree.
Well, the tree was, I don't know how many years old, but many years old, but it died, and it had this huge, about an 8-foot diameter burrow on the side of it. And so because the tree was dangerous, we had to take it down. And so that's how I got the wood for a lot of my wood, my black oak burl wood pieces.
Now it's an interesting thing because you were telling me that the burl actually ends up being a disease that kills the tree off. Tell the viewers how that happens.
Well, according to a forester friend that I have, told me that the burrows that you see on the oak trees are created by mistletoe.
Mistletoe. Can you imagine the beautiful green stuff we stand under and kiss under each year? Kills the tree. Well, at least it makes something wonderful.
And the mistletoe is a fungus, and it'll eat away at the tree and eventually kill the tree.
Now, I noticed when we first started, you used a very particular phrase to describe what you do. Tell us again.
Wood turning.
Now, what does that imply, and what are you using that's turning?
It's a wood lathe. They make wood lathes from miniatures up to very huge that you can turn 36, 40-inch pieces on. My lathe happens to be a 12-inch lathe, and so that's about the maximum piece that I can turn in diameter is a 12-inch piece.
How do you shape a burl? How do you get the burl cut down that you can get it into the lathe?
Well, I cut it into chunks with the chainsaw, and then I have a bandsaw that I set it up on the bandsaw and rough turn it round prior to mounting it into the lathe to go ahead and finish turn whatever product I'm making, whether it's a flower vase or a bowl The flower vases, I use glass inserts, regular glass tube flower vases that I put inside so that the vases are not only beautiful, but they're functional.
Now, I noticed also, if you look at these things carefully, you'll notice that they're shiny, but they're not real glossy. They don't look wet. How do you achieve this beautiful kind of shiny patina that they've got on?
Well, I sand them on the lathe while the piece is turning, and then I buff it, and I use certain claws to use to buff it.
See, he's not going into the details here because he knows if he tells me he'll have to kill me probably.
Some of those little tricks.
Those are trade secrets.
Those are trade secrets. Those little tricks to get that. But once it's finished and someone purchases one, then they can keep it looking nice if they just use a standard furniture polish oil.
Tell our viewers, if they wanted to see your work, where are they going to be able to see it at?
Well, I only do this one show a year. The El Dorado Studio Tour is the only show I do each year. But I do have my business cards, and if someone is really interested, anytime they can call me or email me, and we can set up a time that they can come to the house and look at my work. Yes.
Larry, thanks very much for taking the time to let us interview you this morning. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
So here we are late in the afternoon in Valerie Bye's backyard at the studio tour. We've met some wonderful artists that have shared their creative stories with us. We hope that you've enjoyed it. We want to thank you for tuning in to the program. And come with us next time as we go to investigate the art of it all. I'm Jerry Hogan. Thank you very much. If you'd like to own a copy of this show on DVD, The Studio Tour, contact us at theartofitall@hotmail.com or write to us at Post Office Box 1404, Shingle Springs, California 95682. Also, if you know about a story of achievement in visual or performing arts of high school age or older individuals, let us know, and we'll research the possibilities for future programming on The Art of It All. Thanks. I'm your host, Jerry Hogan. See you next time.